In this video, I'm going to talk about 5 ways to start your nonprofit without spending thousands of dollars. And yes, all of the ideas I'm going to share with you are completely legal, are not about cutting corners, and they're still legitimate things you can do to start your nonprofit. I'm Tiffany with Boss on a Budget. I teach people how to start their nonprofits and how to raise money from the ground up. And if you need help starting your nonprofit and you can't afford to spend thousands of dollars, then you need to keep watching this video because it's for you. Here's the first way you can save money. File your own articles of incorporation. So usually when you engage a consultant to start a nonprofit for you, it's usually a package of multiple things, right? They have a package where they create your articles for you. They may help you draw up your bylaws, and then they complete the 501c3 status for you. Sometimes there are some services that are online that only do the articles, right? So it just depends. But usually consultants can handle this part for you. You can save money by filing it yourself. You may be surprised to learn that the process for filing your articles of incorporation is very simple. And I find that usually in the state that you're operating in or the state that you choose to incorporate in, you can just go to the Secretary of State's office and they'll probably have a guide for you and tell you how to start a nonprofit, or they'll have instructions for how to fill out their paperwork. In most circumstances, you do not have to create the articles yourself. You can just use a template that the state produces or a form that they already have. Now, this is where I'm going to really caution you. And this is why I said you can do this legitimately, right? But you need to be well researched. I'm not saying cut corners. You need to make sure that in your articles, you have all of the required language from the IRS. The IRS, when you apply for 501c3 status, will ask, is this language in your articles? And not every state has that on their templates or has that on their forms. Why though? Because the state is concerned about the matters of the state. They may know that you're applying for 501c3 status, but that's not their business, right? So they don't feel obligated to put the IRS required language in their forms. They may give you a heads up and say, hey, the language is not in here. But if you don't know what you're doing, you have no idea what's happening, right? So you need to make sure that the IRS language that's required to be in your articles in order for you to get 501c3 status is included in your articles, either as an amendment or written directly in whatever template or whatever form you send in to the state. Now, I'm going to link below a link to the language that has to be in your articles if you want to get 501c3 status, so that it's not about saving money, but you're saving money because you're doing it right the first time. Here's a second way to save money. Get your EIN yourself. Your EIN is your employer identification number. It is like your social security number for your nonprofit business. If you want to apply for 501c3 status, you need your EIN. It literally takes less than 10 minutes to get your EIN, and also it's free on the IRS website. But here's the kicker. A lot of websites, if you Google EIN, will charge you. They'll charge you $50, they'll charge you $100 for something that literally takes minutes. So you can go directly to the IRS website, use the EIN assistant to put in all the information about your organization, and they will produce a letter in minutes. And you need to do this during the workday because their online system is not available on the weekends. But again, you can do it yourself. It's free and it's very quick. So already we've saved at least a couple $100s, because to do your articles on your own, a consultant may charge you hundreds of dollars, and then you may get charged for $50 to $100 for your EIN. So let's talk about number 3, the third way you can save money: creating your own bylaws and conflict of interest policy. Now, I've already done a video which kind of walks you through how you can create your bylaws. So I'm linking that above so you can also check that out so you can see what the process is like. But your bylaws are basically your operating rules for your board. It speaks to how your board is structured, how it's set up, and how you all are to make decisions. It's a really important legal document, right? And you need to make sure you're taking the proper steps in developing your bylaws. But here's the thing. Most new organizations create their own bylaws. You do not have to engage a lawyer to create your bylaws. You can take a template, making sure it's a template from another organization that operates within your state. You can make sure you compare your bylaws to state law to make sure you're following the law. And you can also create your conflict of interest policy. Either add that to your bylaws or you can have it as a separate policy. Here's the thing, especially when it comes to the conflict of interest policy, the IRS has a sample conflict of interest policy on their website. You can just go there and take it and copy it for yourself. And for bylaws, you can just literally Google bylaws of organizations in your state, check them out, review them, and see what works for you. You can also go to other websites like the National Council of Nonprofits, and they have a bunch of templates there for policies and things like that for your organization. So you do not have to pay somebody to draft these documents for you. Now, I always recommend though, because these are legal documents and they need to hold up in a court of law, that you should consult a lawyer to at least review your policies, to at least review your bylaws. Now that's a good use of money, and it's you spending money, but it actually is saving you money in the long run. So here's the moral of the story. You do not have to pay a lawyer a lot of money to draft your bylaws, because they're going to charge you for that. They're going to charge you an hourly rate for doing that and pulling that together. And you still have to make decisions about what you're putting in the bylaws, right? You can save a lot of money and just actually have them review. Or an even better way to save money, find a lawyer that does services pro bono, or tap into your state nonprofit association, and they may have free legal resources, or they may have assistance for legal matters that you can get for free. And that way you're really, really saving money. Number 4, filing your own 501c3 paperwork. Now, before I get into this one, I just want to let you know, I've done a lot of videos about how to start a nonprofit, and I've actually seen people comment without knowing I'm in these groups, like on Facebook groups, saying, hey, I use these videos to create my own nonprofit organization, right? So just know that on this channel, if you want to know the process for applying for 501c3 status, I have the videos for you, and I'm linking one above. There are also books on how to start a nonprofit that can walk you through the process. So let me just first say, there are a lot of resources out there that will teach you and show you how to fill out the paperwork for getting 501c3 status. So instead of paying a consultant, which on average for this process is at least $1,000 to get set up for most consultants that I've seen. So instead of spending money on that, you could spend the time, read the books, watch the videos, and go through the process yourself. Just know there are 2 processes for getting 501c3 status. You may qualify for the streamlined version of the regular form, right? So there's a 1023, which is the form you fill out, and there's a streamlined version of that form. The streamlined version is very simple, but there are a lot of tricks and traps in both of those documents. And if you don't know what you're doing, you can make costly mistakes, and mistakes that take a lot of time away from your process. So just make sure, if you're going to go this route and do the paperwork yourself for getting 501c3 status, do your research, look over things, triple check things, make sure you understand every single thing that you're doing. Make sure you understand every single question, because every question matters. And if you want to save money, but still spend a little money, then check in with a consultant. Ask them to review your form. Ask them to explain things to you so you make sure you know what you're doing. The easy form is relatively simple. The long form is way more involved, and you may have to hire somebody to do that because there are different schedules you have to fill out, a lot of information you have to provide. But even with the long form, there are books and resources to help you with that. So this is one of the biggest ways you can save money, is if you decide to do your own paperwork. And finally, the 5th way you can save money starting a nonprofit is with your website. So let me talk to y'all for a second. A lot of people get really excited when it comes to their nonprofit, and they want to create fancy marketing, fancy business cards, and go all out for the website. But this is what I want you to remember. You are a startup. So that means that you're going to shift, you're going to change. So what your mission might be today may be completely different a year from now. You may be doing a lot of events, and you have to update your website and make a lot of changes. What I'm trying to say is that you're pretty nimble, and you make a lot of decisions early on, right? And if you want a website, it has to be updated. And I have noticed with a lot of new organizations, if they hire a really expensive web designer, it is so hard to get them to make simple changes. Or if somebody else creates a website for you, you don't understand what they did. You don't know the process of the software that they used. So you rely on them to be able to make changes, but you have to wait sometimes. And sometimes these designers, I'm just be honest, they get ghost, or they put you on a back burner, or they want to charge you like these maintenance fees and all this kind of stuff just for keeping your website up. And sometimes it can be a disaster. So this is how you save money. Instead of hiring hiring a web designer in the beginning, design your website yourself. Get Squarespace. I use Squarespace, right? Wix. Sometimes people like WordPress, but that's a lot more complicated than Wix and Squarespace. But use a simple website builder and just get the important information on there. I did a video on your nonprofit website, so I'm linking that above if you're curious about what you should be considering when you create your own website. But in the beginning, especially in the very, very new stages, don't spend a whole lot of money on a web designer. Don't. Right? Just figure out a way to design a website yourself. And if you're not savvy, find somebody you know, a cousin or a niece or someone in your local area. Ask around for other nonprofits for who they use. There are people out here who will help, right? And it doesn't have to cost a lot of money to do this. Even the website Canva, which I talk a lot about in my videos about free resources, you can create a website on Canva, right? It's completely different now. You don't have to spend a lot of money. I'm not saying that a website designer is not a good investment, because when the time is right, it is. But that time is, in most circumstances, not in the very beginning. So save yourself a lot of headache and time and money by designing your own website or keeping the design of your website in-house. So at this point, baby, we have saved $1,000, right? So these are just little ways and things you can do to save you some money. A lot of people assume that, you hire a consultant or lawyer and that you have to pay $3,000 and $5,000. You can if you want to, but if you just cannot do it, or if you want to save some of that money to actually do your programming and things like that, then these are real tangible ways that you can actually save money. If you need help with your nonprofit, make sure you visit me at bossonabudget.com. There are plenty of resources there for you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.